Bullying is not just an American phenomenon, it's a worldwide problem. Bullying is referring to the direct actions such as teasing, threatening, taunting, hitting, and stealing by one or more aggressive students against a weaker student. It can also include indirect actions as intentional exclusions, which causes a student to feel socially isolated. Boys are typically involved in the more direct causes, while girls tend to utilize indirect, more subtle strategies such as spreading rumors and enforcing social isolation. Whether bullying is direct or indirect, and whether the key characteristic is repeated physical or psychological intimidation, it still is an ongoing pattern of harassment and abuse. More recently, the issue of cyberbullying has been a concern of the schools and families. This is an indirect form of bullying that uses texting, social media, and emails. One characteristic of the internet is that once something is posted, it may never disappear, and hence can resurface years down the line to renew the pain of cyberbullying. Social status can affect a youth's self-perception and may be linked to delinquency as well. Albert Cohen's influential study of delinquent boys was one of the most comprehensive analyses ever undertaken of the role of the school in the development of delinquent subcultures. According to Cohen's theory, working-class boys feel status deprivation when they become aware that they are unable to compete with middle-class youths in school. While avoiding contact with middle-class youth might alleviate the problem, working-class boys cannot do this as they're forced to interact with middle-class boys at the school, and these schools are middle-class schools with middle-class values. As a result, they reject middle-class values and attitudes and develop delinquent subcultures that provide them with the status denied in the schools and elsewhere in society. John C. Phillips proposed steps by which low status in schools can lead to deviant behaviors. He presents the relationship as one where the lower class status in the schools creates a negative attitude towards the school, which then leads to involvement in a subgroup that is antisocial school attitudes, and that this is what then finally leads to delinquent behaviors. Both public and private schools have a responsibility to provide a safe environment for students and teachers and to promote an environment that is conducive to learning. Sometimes it's necessary to discipline students who endanger others or who constantly engage in creating a negative learning environment. Schools are also more and more putting in security measures, things like drug-sniffing dogs to check lockers and parking lots, random searches, metal detectors, or security cameras. These are all becoming more and more common. For many behavior problems, the schools will utilize their own internal processes, rather than file a petition with juvenile courts. These internal discipline processes include detention, out-of-school suspension, expulsion, and some states allow corporal or physical punishment. After-school detention is generally served in 1-hour increments. Sometimes it's held after school, and some schools it may be on Saturday. Out-of-school suspension may be utilized as well. This kind of punishment appears to be linked with higher rates of delinquency. A 2011 study by the Council of State Governments found that students that were suspended or expelled were at a higher risk of repeating a grade, coming into contact with the juvenile justice system, and dropping out of school. Expulsion from school triggers what's known as due process, meaning that there has to be notice and an opportunity to address the school board that must be given before the student can be expelled. The local school board makes the expulsion decision and will usually appoint an impartial hearing officer when expulsion is being considered. Typical charges that lead to expulsion include things like bringing a gun or other deadly weapon to school or to a school activity, using a firearm to commit an offense off school grounds, or selling or attempting to sell illegal drugs on or off school grounds. And corporal punishment is also utilized in many states. Corporal punishment is referring to physical punishment. School corporal punishment refers to causing deliberate pain or discomfort in response to undesired behaviors by students in school. It often involves striking the student either across the buttock or on the hands with an implement such as a rattan cane, wooden paddle, slipper, leather strap, or a wooden yardstick. Less commonly, it could also include spanking or smacking the student with an open hand, especially at the elementary school level. By law, in the United States, more than half of the states do not allow corporal punishment. In spite of this, the United States Supreme Court has upheld the use of corporal punishment in public schools as a legitimate disciplinary measure. But even in states that do allow corporal punishment, school officials are understandably concerned about its use.